My parents refused to attend my wedding because I got married before my perfect sister, and now their flawless family image is beginning to unravel. I'm 32F, and after 4 years together, I married my husband 8 months ago. With the exception of my parents and my younger sister, Molin, 30F, everyone else came to celebrate. Their absence shocked a lot of people, but I can't say I was blindsided. Molin and I have never been close, and given our history, I probably should have seen it coming. To explain, I need to share a little about the way our family has always worked. For as long as I can remember, my parents have adored Molin. She has a natural talent for just about everything. From childhood onward, she was the one who shone brightest, winning spelling bees, science fairs, talent competitions, and later holding all the titles in high school: class president, valedictorian, prom queen. She was tall, thin, and pretty enough to do modeling, which she pursued briefly before earning a business degree. By her sophomore year of college, she landed her first modeling gig. I'll never forget how my parents threw an extravagant party just to celebrate that milestone, framing her professional headshot and hanging it above the fireplace, where it still hangs today. That same year, I earned my computer science degree. Their response? A quick "well done" before turning the conversation back to Molin's photo shoot. After graduating, Molin rocketed up the corporate ladder, securing a senior executive role by 30, complete with a company car and corner office. Meanwhile, I've worked my way into a solid, respectable, mid-level software developer position. I'm proud of my career, but it's not flashy enough to give my parents bragging rights. On top of that, I've always been shorter and heavier than my sister. My mother constantly criticized my looks growing up, signing me up for unwanted workout classes, forcing diets, and making comments like, "Molin never has to worry about her weight," or "if you just put in more effort, you could look as good as your sister." By high school, I'd learned to brush it off, but the words stayed with me. For years, I tried to earn their approval. I joined the clubs they pushed, took the classes they suggested, and even attempted modeling for a short time, a disaster Molin still mocks me for. Nothing was ever enough. Eventually, I accepted that I was simply the second daughter, the afterthought. By my mid-20s, I gave up chasing their validation. I focused instead on building my career and surrounding myself with people who valued me as I was. Life improved once I stopped competing. Around family gatherings, I played the role of the agreeable daughter, smiling and nodding through endless stories of Molin's latest achievement, boyfriend, or vacation. My parents didn't seem to notice I had emotionally checked out. They were too absorbed in her. Then, at a tech conference, I met my now husband through a mutual friend. He noticed me, the real me. He loved my humor, my coding skills, even my body, and never once suggested I needed to change. After 4 years of dating, he proposed at home while we were eating takeout with our favorite show playing in the background. It was perfect. When I shared the news with my parents, their reaction said it all. Silence. Then my mother asked if I was really sure and suggested I try to lose some weight before the wedding. My father said almost nothing. At our engagement party, my husband noticed them whispering in the corner over my mother's phone. Later, he told me he overheard enough to realize they were on the line with Molin, who was crying. They kept repeating things like, "This wasn't the plan," and "we never thought Rebecca would marry first." The wedding planning didn't get any better. Despite the fact that Molin wasn't even engaged, my mother had already made multiple Pinterest boards for her future wedding and showed little interest in mine. When I finally chose a simple but elegant A-line dress that made me feel beautiful, all my mother could say was that it was practical and suited my figure. Thankfully, my future mother-in-law stepped in, treating me like her own daughter and helping me with everything my mother ignored. When it came time to finalize the guest list, my husband and I carefully double-checked to make sure no one was missed. Both paper and electronic invitations went out, and I know for a fact my parents got theirs. The digital ones even showed read receipts. I reached out multiple times by phone, text, and email after they failed to RSVP. My messages were either ignored or brushed off with vague excuses about being busy and needing to check their schedules. I couldn't afford to waste too much energy on my parents' choices. I was too busy preparing for my wedding. Thankfully, my in-laws were incredibly supportive, helping with everything from table layouts to flower arrangements. Even at the lovely bridal shower hosted by my husband's sister, no one ever mentioned the glaring absence of my own family. Despite that, the wedding itself was beautiful. We held a garden ceremony in the morning, followed by a relaxed afternoon celebration. Everyone commented on how happy and in love we looked. But even with all the joy, there were moments when my parents' absence hit me hard, like when I noticed the empty seats in the front row, or when I couldn't take part in the father-daughter dance. After the honeymoon, I tried to get answers. When I finally reached my parents by phone, my mother launched into a long tirade. She accused me of being careless, claimed she had always dreamed of helping plan her daughter's weddings, and couldn't understand why I had excluded them from such a milestone. I was completely baffled. We had definitely sent them both digital and printed invitations. I even double-checked our records. The mail delivery had been confirmed. I didn't challenge them about trying to gaslight me. Instead, I apologized politely for the mistake and ended the call. Later, my husband admitted he had noticed a pattern long before. How they looked shocked rather than happy when we announced our engagement, or how they constantly made excuses to avoid being involved in planning. He hadn't told me earlier, not wanting to add stress, but looking back, the pattern was undeniable. It was clear the real issue was that I, the less successful daughter, got married before their golden child Mullen. Deep down, I'd always suspected it, but their behavior during the wedding proved it. Even my marriage, which should have been about love and new beginnings, turned into another battle in their ongoing campaign to keep Mullen at the center of their perfect family image. Now Mullen is engaged after only a year of dating, and my parents are ecstatic. They're already boasting to relatives about high-end venues, designer gowns, and private fittings, all the mother-daughter moments I was denied. But this time, many relatives are openly refusing to attend her engagement party or wedding. Apparently, my parents' absence from mine has become a family talking point. When relatives ask me why my parents weren't at my wedding, I simply tell them the truth. They couldn't handle me marrying before Mullen. I don't exaggerate or try to gain sympathy, I just state the facts as I see them. My parents, however, now accuse me of deliberately sabotaging Mullen's wedding. They claim relatives are avoiding the events because I've been spreading lies out of jealousy. But in reality, people are reacting to how my parents treated me. As I've told them, if the truth makes them look bad, maybe they should reflect on their own actions instead of blaming me. Maintaining even the appearance of a relationship with them is becoming harder. Their choice to skip my wedding made me confront a painful truth. No matter what I did, I would never be enough for them. The hardest part isn't their absence anymore. It's realizing I never had the warm, supportive parents I always longed for. Right now, I'm focusing on building a life with someone who truly values me, but I'll keep sharing updates as things change. First update, 2 weeks later. Much has happened since my last post. I decided it was time to confront my parents directly about both their absence at my wedding and their accusations that I ruined Mullen's big day. Reading so many encouraging messages gave me the courage to finally speak up. When we talked, they immediately started making accusations again that I was jealous of Mullen and had orchestrated everything. For the first time ever, I didn't defend myself. Instead, I agreed with them, but not in the way they expected. I told them, "You're right, I am jealous. Not of Mullen's career, her looks, or her achievements. I'm jealous of the unconditional love and support you've always given her, the kind you never once tried to give me." There was silence on the line. Then my mother snapped back, insisting I was exaggerating and that they had treated us both equally. Something inside me broke. Years of buried feelings came rushing out. I told them about every forgotten birthday, every time one of Mullen's accomplishments overshadowed mine.
I reminded my mother of how she canceled my high school graduation dinner because Molin had a modeling callback, and how Molin's prom dress cost more than all my college textbooks for an entire year.
I kept going, even as my father tried to interrupt by saying I was exaggerating. I explained how hard it had been watching them devote years to planning my sister's fantasy wedding while ignoring mine completely. I told them how much it hurt to see their chairs empty and how my mother-in-law had to step in for everything, from buying my wedding clothes to helping with arrangements. Their response told me everything I needed to know. Instead of acknowledging anything, they turned it back on me. "Why didn't you ever speak up if you felt this way?" my mom insisted, as if I hadn't been trying to talk to them for years. My dad added that by sharing my feelings with relatives, I was being unfair and malicious. Then my mom said something that made it all crystal clear. "We never thought you'd go so far as to try to sabotage Moylan's wedding out of spite, but we always knew you were insecure about her success. That's not how we raised you." At that moment, I realized they couldn't actually hear me. To them, none of this had anything to do with their behavior or the way I felt. It was all about protecting Moylan and her upcoming wedding. Even when the conversation was about their absence from mine, their only concern was how it might affect her. For once, I didn't backtrack or apologize. I told them straight, "You're right about one thing. I was raised by you. You taught me I'd never measure up, that Moylan's achievements would always matter more than mine, that keeping up your perfect family image was more important than my feelings. But you also taught me something you never meant to, that I deserve better than this." There was a pause. Then my father, calm but cold, replied, "Maybe it's time we stop acting like bad parents since you've already decided we are. Clearly, you enjoy seeing us suffer. We thought family would help resolve problems, but you've made your choice." My mother added the final blow. "Perhaps you just couldn't handle not being the center of attention. We always tried to treat you both fairly, Rebecca. That's not our fault. You chose to play the victim." I didn't argue back. Why would I? Their words had only proved my point. They couldn't own up to anything, not even now. So I ended the call with a simple goodbye. To my surprise, I felt relief. Yes, I cried, but they weren't the desperate, gut-wrenching tears of my childhood. These were tears of release. For the first time, I had said everything I needed to, without guilt or second-guessing. Later, my husband found me sitting on the porch, staring at the sunset. He quietly sat beside me and held my hand. After a while, I whispered, "They're never going to change, are they?" "No," he said, squeezing my hand, "but you have, and that's what matters." And he was right. I have changed. I'm no longer the child chasing their approval. I no longer need their validation. Yes, it hurts to accept that my parents will never be what I need them to be, but it hurts less than endlessly hoping they might be. For the first time, I honestly don't care what happens with my sister's wedding or the rest of the drama. I've said my piece. Now they can live with it. Strangely, it feels like a lifelong weight has finally been lifted. It's not the happy ending I once wished for with my parents, but maybe it's the one I needed. The freedom to stop begging for the love that should have been freely given. Second update. It's been 3 days since that call, and something unexpected has happened. Moylan decided to step into the mess, but her plan backfired badly. Yesterday morning, she sent me a carefully worded text. Over the years, she's perfected this patronizing tone, and it was dripping from every line. "What you said to Mom and Dad was completely out of line. They've supported us every step of the way and given us everything. You can't just call them bad parents because you're insecure about your own choices." She went on with her usual mix of moral superiority and hidden jabs. "I know your wedding didn't turn out the way you wanted, but that doesn't mean you should try to ruin mine. There's nothing wrong with wanting a celebration that reflects the hard work some of us have put into meeting certain standards. Rebecca, not everything has to be a competition." I didn't bother replying. I've learned that engaging with her only fuels her manipulations. Instead, I blocked her. But Moylan has never tolerated being ignored. A few hours later, my husband called me at work, laughing so hard he could barely talk. Apparently, since she couldn't reach me, she decided to text him instead. Somehow, she'd gotten his personal number, probably through a mutual contact, and sent him a series of messages explaining why my relationship with her had always been difficult. At first, her tone was polite. "As Rebecca's sister and someone who cares deeply about our family's well-being, I feel I should reach out." But it didn't take long for her real intentions to surface. She told him it was his responsibility as my husband to make sure I acted more appropriately. The text grew more condescending as she lectured him. "Family dynamics are complicated. With Rebecca's sensitivity, she may not always see the bigger picture. You should help her understand before she causes permanent damage to family ties."
And then came the kicker, her attempt to appeal to what she assumed were his ambitions. Surely you realize that maintaining good relationships with successful family members like myself could benefit your future. That was her strategy, trying to manipulate my husband into controlling me. And honestly, it only made her look ridiculous.
Rebecca's behavior is backfiring, damaging her own prospects, and indirectly, my parents as well. My husband has always seen through Moline's polished image, so when she tried to manipulate him, he just found it amusing. He especially laughed at her assumption that her job title or vague networking opportunities would impress him. As he put it, "She really doesn't know me at all, does she?" When I came home, we went through her messages together, and instead of feeling insulted, I was laughing with him. Watching her tricks fall flat, especially on someone who couldn't be swayed by them, was oddly freeing. That's when it really hit me. My sister hasn't changed. Beneath the career achievements and the carefully crafted persona, she's still the same insecure teenager who could only feel superior by tearing me down. The most revealing part was her shift in tactics. When she realized she couldn't sway me directly, she immediately tried to pit my husband against me, exactly what she used to do in high school with my friends. Different decade, same playbook. Growing up, she worked relentlessly to hold the favorite child spot. She constantly reminded our parents and me of how much better she was, pointed out my flaws, and undermined any accomplishment I managed to have. But my reaction to her antics now is completely different. 10 years ago, I would have spiraled into self-doubt. 5 years ago, I'd been hurt and angry. Today, I just find it all laughable. My husband's response couldn't have been better. Instead of feeding into her drama, he calmly wrote back, "Thank you for your concern about Rebecca's well-being. As her husband, I'm focused on supporting her happiness, not managing her behavior. If you have concerns, it's best to bring them directly to Rebecca. Have a nice day." That ended it. The only reply she sent afterward was, "I see she's poisoned you against the family too. Don't say I didn't try to help when this all blows up in your faces." The irony, her so-called help only brought my husband and me closer. Instead of driving a wedge, we laughed about it and even planned a weekend trip that night. What I've realized is this: real family isn't about keeping up appearances or controlling narratives. It's about standing together, laughing together, and being there for one another. That's why I'm more convinced than ever that keeping distance from Moline's wedding drama is the healthiest choice. My husband and I have chosen to focus on building our own happiness. Success isn't about proving anything to others. It's about owning your choices and surrounding yourself with people who lift you up, not drag you down. By that measure, I feel more successful than ever. Update 2 weeks later. Things have escalated since my sister's failed attempt to manipulate my husband. My parents are now scrambling to protect their reputation. The relatives I learned they've been calling family members one by one, claiming I'm spreading lies out of jealousy because Moline's wedding will supposedly be far more sophisticated than mine. Their latest excuse? That I deliberately sent their invitation to an outdated email and an old mailing address so I could play the victim. The funny part is, they've lived in the same house for 30 years and haven't changed their email since email became a thing. No one's buying their story. In fact, several relatives are openly sharing their own experiences with my parents' favoritism. One aunt even said my mom pulled similar stunts at past weddings to ensure Moline got all the attention. And the fallout has begun. Relatives who were supposed to play big roles in Moline's wedding have backed out. The fancy venue they secured through connections might now be out of reach, and even a family friend's luxury boutique suddenly had scheduling conflicts. At a recent gathering, things came to a head. Someone innocently asked about my wedding photos, and my mom flew into a jealous rant about how I'd changed and was trying to destroy the family. Instead of backing her up, relatives looked shocked, and her outburst only made things worse. Ironically, the more my parents fight to maintain their perfect family image, the more cracks they reveal. Every attempt to smear me only exposes their favoritism and manipulation further. Relatives who once stayed neutral are now openly choosing sides. Even my father's usually quiet brother apologized to me, admitting he should have spoken up years ago, and has decided he and his family won't be attending any of Moline's wedding events. I haven't had to defend myself. The truth is unfolding all on its own. For years, I kept quiet, thinking silence would preserve peace, but all it did was enable them. Now, their own behavior is undoing them. As my husband put it, they spent years building a facade of the perfect family, but it was all rooted in favoritism and emotional control. Eventually, it was bound to collapse. And honestly, I feel freer than ever.
I'm no longer chasing their approval, no longer managing Maline's moods, no longer carrying the weight of their ideal family expectations. The best revenge I've learned isn't retaliation. It's simply letting the truth reveal itself while I focus on living well. To the Reddit community, thank you. Your support and encouragement gave me the strength to finally advocate for myself. Sometimes it takes strangers to show you what real family feels like.